You are looking at the most evil creature in Greek mythology. This monster had snakes for hair, could turn you to stone with one glance, and even her siblings were afraid of her. I'll tell you about how she got her snakes and stone gaze, and make sure to stick around until the end of the video when I show you the statue of Medusa that was found in the UK. It's absolutely terrifying. So let's get into it. Like Medusa's origin, the details of how Medusa ended up with her snakes and her petrifying stare vary depending on the version you read. In the archaic period, she was probably seen as a protective deity who could help women in childbirth. In early sculptures, she is depicted much more human-like and sometimes even attractive. In later works, she is shown as a scary monster. However, most depictions of Medusa show her as a horrifying beast. You can find Medusa on everything from pottery to jewelry and especially on sarcophagus. And on the smallest coins. One of the most famous examples of Medusa in art is the marble sculpture in the British Museum. This is by far the scariest depiction of Medusa I've ever seen. The way the artist captured her facial features and expressions makes me shiver. And if you look closely, her tongue is sticking out and she has blood dripping from her nose. If that doesn't scream evil, I don't know what does. But later, the Greeks began to view her as a monstrous figure who needed to be slain. Today, Medusa is one of the most popular monsters in all of mythology. We literally have images of her everywhere. Sometimes she's shown as a strong female character, and sometimes she's just plain terrifying. Either way, Medusa is an icon of modern pop culture. Here are some fun facts about Medusa and pop culture. The first recorded use of Medusa as a brand name happened in 1844. It was used for a type of fire insurance. Medusa was also the name of a comic strip character created in 1939. The character's real name was Maud, but she was known as Medusa because she had a snake for a pet. During World War II, Medusa was featured in several underground comics and pin-up posters. After the war, she appeared in various horror films and television shows. In the Harry Potter series, I wish it was named after Medusa, but no. Voldemort's snake companion was named Nagini, who was a maledictus, a witch who was afflicted by a blood curse that eventually turns her into a permanent snake. Perhaps a story for another time. And then in the Percy Jackson series, Medusa is one of the monsters that Percy Jackson and his friends fight. Of course, this change in characterization led to the creation of the famous myth, where Perseus slays Medusa. The mosaic depicts Medusa surrounded by a frieze of painted plaster. This is exciting because it's the only known depiction of Medusa outside of Greece and Italy. It also shows us how Medusa was viewed in the Roman Empire. Sadly, the mosaic was badly damaged when it was found, but it has since been restored, and now it's on display at the Ashmolean Museum in Oxford. This piece of art is truly terrifying. If you look at Medusa's eyes, it's clear that she's ready to strike. You can feel the power coming off of this statue. And if that's not enough to convince you that Medusa was the most evil creature in Greek mythology, I covered this story in a previous video, so I won't bore you with the details. But just to summarize, Perseus is tasked by King Polydex to bring back Medusa's severed head as proof of his heroism. With the help of the gods, Perseus finds Medusa sleeping and cuts off her head while she is distracted. The severed head of Medusa continues to breathe and writhe, but Perseus puts it in a bag and returns it to the king. To escape Polydex's wrath, Perseus flies away with the help of Hermes and settles down on an island where he becomes king. And that's the end of Medusa's story. Or is it? There are other myths where Medusa appears, but she doesn't get killed. For example, in one version, Medusa escapes to an island and befriends a group of fishermen. Later, when the hero Bellerophon arrives to kill Medusa, the fishermen warned him that it's impossible to slay such a dangerous monster. They then offer him a riddle, and if he solves it, they'll tell him where to find Medusa. But of course, the hero refuses to do this and tries to attack the fishermen instead. In response, the fishermen transform themselves into dolphins and swim away. Bellerophon, who was also able to turn into a dolphin, chases after them, and the dolphins take him to a cave where Medusa is hiding. Then, you know the rest of the story. They were all turned to stone just by looking at her. The most common version can be found in Hesiod's. He says that Medusa used to be a beautiful mortal woman, but Poseidon turned her into a monster in Athena's temple. This version is strange because Athena is supposed to be the goddess of wisdom and justice. Why would she allow such act in her own temple? Other versions say that Athena punished Medusa because she didn't respect the goddess. In Ovid's Metamorphoses, Athena curses Medusa after she boasted that she was more beautiful than the goddess. Whatever the reason, Athena turns Medusa's beautiful flowing hair into snakes and gives her a new gaze that can turn living beings into stone. This curse is a bit odd because Athena was known to be a protector of heroes. Turning Medusa into a deadly monster was kind of like signing her death warrant. And that brings us to the next point. But Medusa wasn't always a horrible monster, and the reason why she became one is genuinely sad. The origin of Medusa is unknown because nobody knows exactly where she came from. That's right. Even though Medusa is one of the most popular monsters in all of Greek mythology, we have no idea where she came from. Medusa has many different origins, but the Gorgon we know and love today comes from the very early stages of Greek mythology, which were never written down. All we know is that she was a member of the monstrous race of creatures called the Gorgons, which is why she is often referred to as the Gorgon Medusa. There is some debate over whether or not Medusa was actually the only Gorgon. The word Gorgon simply means a creature with a horrifying face, so maybe there were multiple. What we do know is that Medusa had two sisters named Steno and Euryale, and they all lived on an island somewhere in the ocean. If you want to know more about the Gorgons, I made a whole video about them where I talk about their weird anatomy and how the Greeks thought they were related to the Persians. You can find the video in the description below. Now, we all know what Medusa looked like because of the famous statue in the British Museum, but in written sources, she is described differently. In ancient art, Medusa is shown with wings, fangs, claws, the legs of a bird, a gaping mouth filled with sharp teeth, and of course, her signature snakes for hair. The earliest known depiction of Medusa is on a vase painting where she looks like a normal human woman, except for the snakes on her head. This is pretty interesting because it shows us that the appearance of Medusa changed drastically over time. When people first started worshipping Medusa, she didn't have any wings or fangs. She still had her snakes, but she was much more attractive. You can see this change in another sculpture of Medusa where she's much more human-like and almost beautiful. The transformation into a more monstrous form happens sometime between the creation of these statues, which is between 500 BC and 330 BC by the time we reach the Roman era. Medusa is shown with all the traits that we associate with her today. This change may have happened because as time went on, the Greeks saw Medusa less as a goddess and more as a monster. The story of Medusa and Athena, however, goes way back. And as I said before, Medusa's character evolved over time. And the very same goes for the Medusa in art. Because Medusa's character evolved so much over time, she appears in many different types of artwork as well, in different cultures now. So much so you can find so much of Medusa art and themes in modern pop culture. But, finally, the real Medusa. In 1983, builders excavating a site in Somerset, England discovered a Roman mosaic, which arguably claims to be the absolute true depiction of Medusa. Are you aware of that or do you disagree? Let us know what do you think in the comments and, hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss my future videos.